Raider Nation, what is the deal, man? Once again, it's your guy Panama Fargo back to y'all live with another episode of the Raider Rundown. And today, man, we got to get into day 2 of the joint practices with the 49ers. Some very good, some bad, right? But at the end of the day, more good than bad, right? And I cannot wait to get into this information with y'all. So let's go ahead, get this intro started, and let's get into it.
As a young guy, I had a dream that someday I would build the finest organization in professional sports.
Raider Nation, what is the deal, man? Once again, it's your guy Panama Fargo. You're watching another episode of the Raider Rundown. Make sure you're tapping on that like and subscribe button. Please hit on the little notification bell if you can, so you don't miss any episodes that I got dropping like this one right here. But like I said, man, we got to go through the day 2 of the joint practice with the 49ers. Some real good information. But let me go ahead, give y'all updates right before I get into all of them. So we got to start with Davante Adams. I know most of y'all have already heard the news and have panicked a little bit, right? That Davante Adams did get a little nicked up during the practice today. Went over the middle, tried to catch a pass, and it was a big collision. Got up limping, was able to walk off on his own power. So that's good news, right? So that's cool. And after went into the locker room, but it was reported by multiple beat reporters and Josh McDaniels talked about it at the end of practice there. It's something minor, nothing too crazy, right? It's something minor, something that's not really, something that we have to really worry about, trip over. So I expect him to miss a couple practices, right? Expect him to be able to miss a couple practices, get healthy. But we rather him do that than fuck himself up any further. We need this man for the season, and we already know what Davante Adams could do. So go ahead, let him heal up, do his thing, right? Next piece of information that we got to get into. The Raiders have signed Damian Williams, right, running back. And if you don't remember him, he was the running back for the Kansas City Chiefs team who beat Jimmy and the 49ers in that Super Bowl. So if you remember him, number 26, he has some speed to him. And many believe that this is a corresponding move because the Raiders lost a running back last week due to injury. So now you got to get some more bodies in there, right? And more people, that are thinking that this is related to the Josh Jacobs news. It really is not as of right now, right? We don't know what's going on with Josh Jacobs. So at the end of the day, this is pertaining to having bodies in the preseason because you got to try to reserve the running backs who are there at the moment, right? So that's what is going on with that. So anybody tripping about the whole Josh Jacobs thing, leave it be. That's not a correlating move at the moment. So let's go ahead, not trip off that, right? So let's get into the injury. Who was not there? Hunter Renfrow was not at practice today. Keep this in mind. Okay, Chandler Jones is not at practice today. Many of the usual suspects, Michael Mayer, Tyree Wilson, things of that nature, were not at practice today. So keep that in mind, okay? So when you're really thinking about it, for the majority of it, they missed Davante Adams. They did not have Davante Adams for the 11 on 11s. Before I tell you all this information, you have to know this. They did not have Davante Adams in 11 on 11s. Did not have Hunter Renfrow, right? So, and Michael Mayer is not there, missing some weapons, missing some key weapons. So let's talk about the practice now. Now that you know all these factors, let's talk about the practice. The Raiders won this practice. Okay, plain and fucking simple. The Raiders won this practice. There are two things that I've learned from these joint practices with the 49ers, right, that we wanted to see when they did this. And the two things I've learned is this. One, Jimmy's very calm and collected, and when he's on, he's fucking on, right? We saw it in multiple practices. We saw it in multiple days, right? Although he had his hot and cold, we see him getting his rhythm back. And from all accounts, today, yesterday, very accurate, right? Very on point, on rhythm with what he's doing, and he seems to be getting his rhythm back. Like he said yesterday in his presser, he's getting his feet under him, literally, right? He's still getting healthy, still getting his rhythm in this offense. And I say that word a lot, and you're going to continue to hear me say that word until the season starts, damn near when the season begins. Rhythm. That's what he's doing right now. And we're seeing that it's starting to pay dividends. He's starting to get back to form. Now, the next thing I've learned about this Raiders team, this defense is full of dogs, at least. At least they are full of dogs and full of people that are hungry to make a play. And that's the type of Raider defense that I've been fucking craving. You feel what I'm saying? This is the type of Raider defense that's got that nasty. And this is what we want. When you bring in guys like Marcus Peters, when you have guys like Max Crosby already, and from all accounts, now that what I'm hearing, you bring in guys like Robert Spillane who bring in that toughness, bring in that nasty attitude. This is the Raiders defense that we have been clamoring for. Are they a finished product? By no means is this defense a finished product. Still some holes to fill. But with the way that they're playing right now, if they can continue that throughout the season, boy, oh boy, we are going to just get scarier and scarier as we progress, right? So let's go ahead. You know how we do. We got to go ahead and share the screen. I'm going to go ahead, take you to some of the beat writers that were there today. You do it and see what they're saying. Now, this guy right here, David Lombardi, I don't know who he is, right? I just heard about him today. But at the end of the day, he seems to be on the 49ers side of things, okay? He seems to be reporting for the 49ers side of the practices. So when the Raiders have a joint practice, I always love to see the other side, right? What are they saying? So just like next week, if you don't already do this, right? You don't just look at the Raiders beat reporters, look at the Rams beat reporters, right? Look at the other teams, what they're saying, because that might give you some very important information as well on certain players, right? Because they're not getting paid to sugarcoat shit. They're going to say if their players are fucking up or getting fucked up. So at the end of the day, it's good to know from the other side. So let's look at what he said. Sloppy day for the 49ers to wrap up this joint session in the desert. But Brock Purdy does finish it with a TD run to cap off a long drive. The score sparked another skirmish. San Francisco's quarterbacks combined for 6 interceptions against the Raiders in 7-on-7 and 11-on-11 work. Purdy threw 2 interceptions in the 11s. 3 quarterbacks, including Sam Darnold, Trey Lance, threw interceptions in 7-on-7s. Purdy's picks in 7s claimed off Dino said whatever, okay? But this is the one that I want to talk about as well. San Francisco defense wasn't overpowering either. Garoppolo and the Raiders enjoyed some efficient drives against them. Now, let's start with the Garoppolo, okay? Efficient drives. And what do we always say that this McDaniels system loves to operate? What's the yardage that it loves to operate in between? The 7 to 25-yard range. That's where this McDaniels offense loves to get down. And that's where Jimmy thrives. Jimmy doesn't thrive. He's not a deep shot quarterback. Although he can throw the deep shot, right? Let's not get it twisted and say he can't do it. He can do it, but that's not his game, right? His game is that short intermediate shit, methodically moving the ball down the field. And that's what we're seeing. When Jimmy, like I said, when Jimmy's on and Jimmy's able to do his thing, right? He's on rhythm, he's on pace. It's going to be real scary, especially if he's getting the ball out of his hands quick. That does not allow the D lines to be able to converge on him as quickly. The one thing about Jimmy is if he knows where he's going to go with the ball, he's quick with his decisions. He's quick with his reads. He's quick with throwing the ball. And that's one thing we won't have to worry about. Now, will he hold the ball at times if he gets in trouble? Yes, he will hold the ball. He will make some dumbass decisions if he gets in trouble. We have to try to limit the amount of pressure that's in his face, limit the amount of him holding the ball, because once he does that, we're in trouble. But what he's trying to help him with, what he's trying to install for Jimmy is getting the ball out of his hands. Quick. Get it out your hands. Let's methodically move down the field. And that's what we're seeing from Jimmy Garoppolo and this offense. Now, it's kind of crazy to me, right? As you can see here, Adams' injury is minor. But it's kind of crazy to me how we're looking at this defense. And it's a complete 180 flip. It's a complete 180 flip from last year to this year. Because now what we're looking at now is players who are comfortable in this scheme. Also, not only that, players who fit this scheme. You must understand, last year, yes, there were players that were here, but at the end of the day, most of the players, Patrick Graham, in his perfect world from last year's team, would not envision them to be on his defense, right? He has a vision for this defense, and now we're seeing it executed. We're seeing it executed in the forms of Robert Spillane. We're seeing it executed in the forms of Marcus Epps, even Marcus Peters. right? Even Marcus Peters, because of course, Josh McDaniels has final say, whatever the case may be. But I know Patrick Graham was sitting there saying, yeah, let's grab this guy. This is a guy I like. This is a guy that can help to only elevate this defense. And we're seeing it. Now, let's go ahead and look at this training camp interception tracker, right? This is a guy, Raider Scout, that I always talk about that has very good information if you're looking for Raiders information, right? This guy says Peters, Spillane with 5 interceptions, right? Training camp. This is for all of training camp. This is just today, right? But this is all of training camp. They have 5 interceptions combined. Jacorian Bennett has 3. Shelley, Hobbs, Morg, Epps, they have 2. Masterson, Grant, Webb, they have 1. Okay. Now, today, Robert Spillane was able to get his hands on 2 interceptions today. If I'm not mistaken, he was able to get 2 interceptions off Brock Purdy today. That is something that's very significant to me. And why is this significant to me? Because I've said time and time again, I think this linebacking core is the weakest unit of the defense. I don't really like the depth. I don't really like, the talent in it. Although there's some things to be cool about and be okay with. At the end of the day, it's an unproven group, and it's a group that has a lot of question marks, right? But Spillane seems to be asserting himself. Spillane seems to be making his presence felt. A guy that I look at a lot, Hondo Carpenter, and like I always talk about, I like to see information from too. He raves about the guy. And he says this guy right here is able to know the scheme like the back of his hand. And he's able to put other guys in position. He knows the scheme so well. And he's so tough. He's physical. The guy going to bring that physicality, going to bring a nasty attitude to the middle of the Raiders defense. And that's what we've been lacking as well. Although I like Denzel Perryman, he wasn't in there all the time, right? He wasn't healthy. This is a guy that most people say is a reliable player. Is a player that's reliable. Will he get nicked up? Of course he's going to get nicked up. Every football player gets nicked up. But this is a guy that plays through those, right? This is a guy that's going to show you toughness, not only in the beginning of the season, but towards the end of the season as well. And that's something that I want to rub off on the rest of the defense. And it seems, by all accounts, he's quarterback in the middle right now. He's quarterback in the middle. He's very dangerous in the middle. It seems like he's exceeding my zone coverage expectations or just pass coverage expectations, period. Right? Because I didn't know too much about him in pass coverage, suspect to me, but from what it looks like, okay, he's starting to see the ball. The game is slowing down, and he's starting to get his hands on the football. And if our middle linebacker can get his hands on the football, it's scary. And why do I say it's scary? Because the Raiders secondary, once again, shows their ass. This secondary has me excited, bro. Excited. Because I call it what you want. I think it's the Marcus Peters effect. Ever since he's come in here, it's been a new wind. You feel what I'm saying? It's a new air. We're looking now at consistent every day Raiders getting their hands on the football, pass breakups, right? Interceptions, deflections, just sticky coverage. We're seeing it all over the field, damn near every day at this point. It's starting to become consistent. Now, will this translate over to the season? We got to hope, right? We got to hope, because there's many times we've heard, right? And there's many times we've heard that the Raiders defense and the players have played good in training camp, and it wasn't the case come the season. But I ask you this for everybody: when's the last time we've heard the Raiders defense make these type of plays at this type of volume, right? When's the last time we've seen the Raiders defense consistently stacked days on top of each other of being good, and not just against each other? Because like we said, we wanted to see if this secondary, if this defense as a whole was whole with some other jerseys into town. And now we saw it against practice with ourselves, and now we're seeing it on practice against another formidable NFL roster that this defense is coming to play. But the bare minimum, they're coming to knock you on your ass, right? That's the bare minimum. And we're seeing dogs. We're seeing physicality. We're not only seeing that, we're seeing intelligence. We're seeing a lot of smart football players on this field. For all accounts, you know what Max Crosby is, right? We know what he is. But now you're looking at the second level, Robert Spillane. We're knowing that his IQ is through the roof, knows the scheme like the back of his hand, able to put people in position. Third level, who do we have? Now you look at Marcus Epps, who they brought in. right? They brought in Marcus Epps. He's able to put people in position because he knows the scheme. Last but not least, Marcus Peters. You bring that savvy veteran in who not only is a smart football player in knowing his assignment, knowing zone coverages, but somebody who has a track record of being a ball hawk and somebody who has an infectious personality. It's going to rub off on the rest of the Raiders group. And this is what we're seeing, right? When it comes to this defense right here, we can only hope that this is what we are going to be getting during the season. Because if this is what we're going to get during the season, with the playmakers we have on offense, oh, Jesus Christ, right? Like, let's be real here, bro. If our defense is just somewhat formidable with this offense that we have, Raiders going to be a scary group. They're going to be a scary team to play. Am I saying that they're Super Bowl contenders? I'm not saying that. But I'm saying, right, there's always those teams that are making the playoffs each year that even if you are a pretty good team, you look see them on your schedule and you're like, fuck, it's going to be a game, right? This ain't going to be no easy walkthrough. And that's what I think. The days of the Raiders being just an easy circle mark on the calendar, right, that shit's over. Fuck that. No, that shit's over. Right now, we on right now, and what it looks like, at the very least, is going to be competitive. And we going to hit your ass. And that's what I like to see. And let's talk about the offense for a little bit, because there's a couple notes from the offense that I want to highlight. All right. And let's start with the Raiders run game. Now, we said they signed Damian Williams, but we got to talk about Zamir White. Zamir White looked explosive today. Zamir White had himself a couple of nice long runs, right? One for a touchdown at least. And he's starting to show some. Am I saying he's an all-pro running back? We'll see. But we want to see this type of progression going through training camp with these running backs. Do I think he's going to play in the preseason? This is the thing. I think he might get a couple drives in the preseason, but do we really want him out there like that? I mean, this is the thing, because if we don't know what's going on with Josh Jacobs, do we really want to put Zamir White out there in the preseason and risk injury? I mean, that's something that we're going to have to ask ourselves. I'll probably have an answer by tomorrow, right? But at the end of the day, we're seeing that he's starting to gain that rhythm. He's starting to see that the holes open up for him. And with a running back, I always say this, right? With a running back, if you're new and you're freshly starting, right, I think that it takes a minute for you to get continuity with your O-line as well. They're an extension of you. You know what I mean? You got to understand how your O-line does in certain run blocking fits, right? Just as a running back, just me, period, this is how I used to think, right? I need to understand, right, if we're doing zone, how does X, Y, Z, how do they block, right? What's going on? What is the tendency that I see? How do they like to do, right? It takes a minute for them with your offensive line. It takes a minute for you to be like, okay, this is I kind of know the timing of things, right? And an example I bring up a lot is a Le'Veon Bell example, right? I think this guy had the perfect continuity, the perfect right mesh with his offensive alignment, just because everything looked so effortless, right? And I just love the way he looked when he was running through there. Now, am I saying Zamir White's Le'Veon Bell? No. The correlation I'm trying to make with that is when you see a running back is comfortable with the blocking schemes and the run scheme, you can just tell, right? You can tell that they're comfortable. Even last year, for as good as Josh Jacobs was, he wasn't very comfortable most of the time, right? And I think everybody that watched Raider football can attest to the same thing. There were some times Josh was a little uncomfortable back there because the offensive line just wasn't, one, they weren't gelled themselves. Two, right, he was having to make a lot of plays back there. And towards the end of the season, we started to see him get a little bit more comfortable with the run schemes. And we obviously know what happened towards the end of the season, right, getting the rushing title. But with Zamir, he's fresh. He's new. And although he played last year, didn't play a lot, right? So now he's starting to see more and more carries with more and more carries, repetition. I think we're going to see more of Zamir White unlocked, right? So last but not least, we got to talk about Jimmy G. And we got to talk about this offense. Like I told you, a lot of people were injured today. A lot of injuries. There wasn't a lot of playmakers out there. No Michael Mayer, no Hunter Renfrow, no Devontae Adams for the majority of the practice. Definitely on team sessions didn't have Devontae Adams. And guess what? Raiders defense still moved on that ass. Still moved. Still was efficient. Still ended up connecting in the red zone. right? Jimmy Garoppolo ended up finding DeAndre Carter on the first drive for the Raiders for a touchdown. But what did they do? Methodically move down the field. And what I can say, that's two things. One, that attests to the depth on this team, right? The depth on this team, I believe, is the best it's been in many, many years. Many, many years. This is the most depth, I think, of talent that we've had in a while, right? So you're seeing no Hunter, no Michael Mayer, right? No Devontae. But at the end of the day, you still got guys making plays like Jacoby Myers, Austin Hooper, DeAndre Carter. Even Trey Tucker got into it, right? He got him some. So what we're seeing now. Oh, and Jesper Horsted wasn't out there either. Now that I think about it. So what we're seeing, right, is an offense that has a lot of depth. And two, the next thing we talk about is a quarterback who has command of the situation, command of the offense, right? If he's still able to move methodically against the 49ers once, I might add you, okay? And we know what the fuck that defense is. So let's not play with ourselves. I know we hate the 49ers and it's fuck the Niners, but at the end of the day, I'm not stupid. And I'm not implying y'all are either, but I'm not going to be naive to the fact that these motherfuckers are good, right? So to hear that, to be able to still move the ball at that type of pace, right, with this efficiency, without some of the stars that you're going to be having, ooh-wee, bro. And it's a funny little picture circulating on social media, right, that has the little triangle, and it's talking about, the Raiders cycle, where, they give you hope, you start to lose the shit, they suck, boom, we go back to it, right? But at the end of the day, I'm on the hope shit right now. And I do it every year. I'm on the hope shit. But it's like, bro, what we're hearing, how can we deny it? We can't just sit back and ignore it just because of previous experiences, right? This is a whole different team. Every year is a different team. Every year is a different team coming into the season. So we don't know what we have. But coming into it right now, bro, I think that what we're seeing is very, very good. Now, let's see on Sunday what rookies play, who plays, because there's a lot of guys still fighting for spots. So let's see who plays, right? Let's see what we see on Sunday. Although I don't think a lot of the normal suspects are going to be there. I don't think so, because there's no point. You just had 2 joint practices with a motherfucker. So at the end of the day, why sit there and, try to put most people out there? But I think that we're going to see guys like Nesta J. Silvera, who we heard a lot about today as well, right? Push people back into the middle of the field. We're going to see Nesta J. Silvera. I think we'll see Byron Young, Trey Tucker, Aiden O'Connell. From all accounts, from what I'm hearing, looks good, looks accurate, right? And Jacorian Bennett, maybe. I believe we'll see him out there. There's a couple guys that I'm looking and very excited to see, man, that we're going to be able to look. Now, I didn't hear too much about the offensive lineman today. Didn't hear a lot about the battle that's going on between the Jermaine Illuminor and Thayer Mumford. Haven't heard too much about the guard spots either, although we just kept hearing Greg Van Roten's name a lot yesterday and didn't hear too much today. But we're going to see a lot of battles play themselves out on Sunday, man, and I, for one, am very excited to see that. So without further ado, man, make sure you guys are tapping on the like and subscribe button, man. Please hit on the little notification bell and share out the content if you can. Trying to get the channel monetized, can't do it without y'all. Last but not least, tonight, 10 o'clock, I'm on with my guy, Protect the Shield, man. I'm on his podcast tonight. So make sure if you guys is watching this right now, man, you tune into my homie Protect the Shield's podcast tonight. I'll be on there live, 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific time, talking Raiders football, talking training camp as well. So it's going to be a fun time, man. Make sure y'all pull up, enjoy the talk with us, right? And at the end of the day, make sure you're hitting all them buttons. And I keep it authentic from the clouds to the ground on the Raider Rundown.